The cheap pickup truck war just exploded, and 2026 is about to rewrite everything you thought you knew about trucks, prices, and who actually cares about regular buyers. Because 3 brands just pulled the pin on sub 10K pickups, and the first one absolutely blindsided the market, the all-new GM Montana, a truck nobody expected GM to take this far. This isn't some toy work truck or stripped shell either. This is a real compact pickup with real usability, modern styling, and a price that undercuts almost everything on the road right now. GM clearly saw the Maverick hype, saw how badly people want affordable trucks again, and said, we can do cheaper, and that alone should have Ford and Hyundai sweating. The Montana is aimed straight at young buyers, small businesses, and anyone sick of paying full-size truck money for weekend errands. And the craziest part is GM didn't even pretend this was a premium experiment. This thing is built to sell in massive volume and shake the bottom of the market hard. Then comes the truck that might completely change the global pickup game, the Toyota IMV0, and this is where things get serious. Toyota isn't just launching a cheap truck, they're launching a platform designed from the ground up to be affordable, modular, and almost indestructible. No fluff, no luxury nonsense, just a bare bones, purpose-built pickup that can be configured for work, deliveries, farming, or daily use, all while keeping the price shockingly low. This thing exists because Toyota knows the world doesn't need $70,000 trucks. It needs trucks people can actually buy, fix, and keep for decades. The IMV0 feels like a direct attack on every overpriced lifestyle pickup out there. And once this thing hits wider markets, it's going to expose just how inflated truck pricing has become. And then Subaru enters the chat quietly, confidently, and in a way nobody saw coming, with its first true compact pickup for 2026. Subaru already owns the outdoorsy, practical crowd, and now they're giving them a truck that fits their lifestyle without destroying their bank account. This pickup leans hard into efficiency, all-weather capability, and daily usability, making it perfect for people who want a bed but don't want a massive body-on-frame monster. It's aimed at Crosstrek and Outback buyers who've been waiting years for something more useful without going full truck, bro, and Subaru knows exactly who they're targeting here. Affordable, reliable, and weirdly smart, this pickup could quietly become one of the most popular choices in the segment once people realize what it offers for the money. What makes all 3 of these trucks so dangerous isn't just the price, it's what they represent. Automakers are finally admitting that buyers are done with bloated trucks, insane markups, and features nobody asked for. Under 10K pickups shouldn't feel impossible, and suddenly they aren't. GM is going for mass appeal, Toyota is going for global domination, and Subaru is going for loyal buyers who've been ignored for years. And that combination is exactly how markets get flipped upside down. The cheap pickup era isn't a rumor anymore, it's happening, and the pressure this puts on Ford, Stellantis, and even Chinese brands is only just starting to build. And here's where things get even more uncomfortable for the rest of the industry, because these trucks don't exist in a vacuum. They exist at a time when used truck prices are collapsing, inventories are piling up, and buyers are finally pushing back. When a brand new pickup shows up with a price starting under 10 grand, every dealer trying to move a $30,000 base truck instantly looks out of touch. That pressure doesn't just hit one brand, it ripples through the entire market, forcing discounts, killing markups, and exposing how thin the value proposition has become on so many so-called entry trucks. The GM Montana in particular is a warning shot from Detroit because it proves GM can still build something simple, affordable, and desirable when it actually wants to. No massive V8, no oversized footprint, just a compact truck that fits cities, tight driveways, and real-world budgets. It's designed for people who want to haul bikes, tools, furniture, or small loads without feeling like they're piloting a bus, and that's exactly why it's going to resonate. GM isn't chasing profit per unit here, they're chasing relevance, and that shift alone should scare legacy truck makers more than any EV ever could. Toyota's IMV0 is even more disruptive in a different way, because it doesn't care about North American truck traditions at all. This thing is built for the real world, where reliability matters more than screens, and repairs matter more than ambient lighting. Toyota is betting that buyers are ready to go backwards in features if it means going forwards in affordability, and judging by how fast interest has exploded around this platform, they're probably right. Once people see how cheap, tough, and customizable the IMV0 really is, it's going to make $40,000 mid-sized trucks look completely absurd. Subaru's pickup, meanwhile, plays a long game because it's not trying to win on raw price alone, it's trying to win on logic. all-wheel drive, compact dimensions, great fuel economy, and just enough truck capability to cover 90% of what most people actually do. This isn't a job site truck, it's a lifestyle utility tool, and Subaru buyers understand that better than anyone. For city dwellers, outdoor lovers, and people who want one vehicle to do everything, this pickup fills a gap that's been ignored for way too long. The real shocker is what happens next, because once these trucks hit showrooms, buyers will start asking uncomfortable questions. Why does a basic full-size truck cost 4 times more? Why are compact trucks treated like premium products? Why did the industry abandon affordable work vehicles in the first place? And once those questions start spreading, the pricing house of cards gets very shaky very fast. These 2026 pickups aren't just new models, they're a reset button for the entire truck segment, and the fallout from that reset is only beginning to show. And this is exactly where the industry loses control of the narrative, because once buyers realize they have options again, the power shifts overnight. For years, people were told cheap trucks were impossible, that safety rules, tech requirements, and consumer expectations made affordability a fantasy. Then GM, Toyota, and Subaru show up with real metal, real beds, and real prices, and suddenly that excuse evaporates. The truth is, these trucks were always possible. They just weren't as profitable as bloated, over-optioned models designed to trap buyers in long loans. What's especially wild is how different these trucks feel in personality while chasing the same price target. The Montana feels like a city-friendly workhorse, something you could daily drive without hating your commute. The IMV Zero feels like a tool, unapologetically honest, almost rebellious in how little it cares about trends. The Subaru pickup feels like a Swiss Army knife on wheels, not flashy, not loud, just smart and capable in ways most people actually need. That diversity is what makes this wave so powerful, because there isn't just one type of buyer being served anymore. And let's talk about who should be panicking right now, because it's not just Ford. Stellantis is in deep trouble if this trend sticks, especially with Ram's prices already under pressure and compact truck plans still vague. Even brands that don't sell pickups directly will feel the impact, because when trucks get cheaper, everything else has to justify its price harder. Crossovers, small SUVs, even base sedans suddenly look overpriced when a pickup costs the same or less. There's also a massive global angle here that people aren't paying enough attention to. These trucks are designed to work across multiple markets, meaning huge production volumes, shared parts, and brutally efficient manufacturing. That's how you hit these prices without losing your shirt. Toyota understands this better than anyone, and GM clearly took notes. Once scale kicks in, these platforms can evolve fast, and that's when things get really uncomfortable for competitors still relying on low volume, high margin strategies. And here's the part that really flips the script, because these cheap pickups don't kill demand for trucks, they expand it. People who never considered a pickup suddenly see one as reasonable. First-time buyers, younger drivers, small business owners, even retirees all get pulled back into the market. The answer is all of the above, depending on who's buying. That flexibility is something oversized trucks lost when prices went insane. A 10K pickup can be your only vehicle, and that alone rewires how people think about car ownership. And now the pressure is building behind the scenes, because suppliers, factories, and even governments are watching closely. If affordable trucks sell in massive numbers, it strengthens the argument for simpler regulations, localized production, and platforms designed for efficiency instead of excess. That's a conversation automakers have tried to avoid, but these trucks are dragging it into the spotlight whether they like it or not. The 2026 cheap pickup wave isn't just about 3 models, it's about what happens when the industry is forced to confront reality again. And that confrontation is only getting louder as more details leak, more markets open up, and more buyers realize they've been overpaying for way too long. And as more buyers start doing the math, the emotional spell breaks completely. Monthly payments, insurance costs, fuel bills, maintenance, all of it suddenly looks different when the vehicle itself isn't absurdly expensive. These trucks don't just lower the sticker price, they lower the cost of ownership across the board. And that's something glossy ads can't compete with. Once people experience that freedom, going back to bloated pricing feels impossible. There's also a ripple effect that hits the used market hard. When new pickups are this affordable, used prices don't get to float in fantasy land anymore. High mileage trucks that were once treated like gold instantly lose leverage. Sellers lose power, buyers gain it, and the market finally starts behaving like a market again. That correction alone could be one of the biggest hidden consequences of these 2026 releases. What's fascinating is how quietly this revolution is happening. No massive launch events, no celebrity endorsements, no over-the-top hype machines, just simple trucks showing up and breaking assumptions. That quiet confidence is exactly what makes them so credible. They don't need to scream, the numbers do that for them, and the innovation here isn't about screens or software, it's about restraint. Lighter platforms, fewer parts, smarter design choices, and manufacturing that actually respects cost. In an era obsessed with more, these trucks win by doing less, and that's a lesson a lot of automakers forgot how to apply. It's almost ironic that the most disruptive vehicles of 2026 aren't the most advanced, they're the most grounded. You can already feel the industry scrambling behind the scenes, because once one cheap pickup succeeds, others have no excuse. Announcements get fast-tracked, projects come off the shelf, and suddenly everyone claims they were always planning something affordable. But the first movers always shape the narrative, and right now that narrative belongs to GM, Toyota, and Subaru. And the real tension is still ahead, because once these trucks prove themselves on the road, in work sites, in cities, and in everyday life, the question won't be whether they're good enough, it'll be why the industry ever convinced people they didn't deserve something like this in the first place. A question that keeps getting louder the longer this cheap pickup era continues to gain momentum. And that question is already creeping into every corner of the market, because once buyers feel respected instead of exploited, expectations change permanently. People start demanding transparency, simpler trims, and pricing that actually makes sense. The days of hiding affordability behind limited availability and market adjustments get a lot harder when these trucks exist as proof that another path is possible. What's especially interesting is how these pickups could reshape urban transportation without anyone planning it. Smaller trucks mean less congestion, easier parking, and vehicles that fit modern cities instead of overwhelming them. That alone opens doors for buyers who wrote off trucks entirely because they felt impractical. A compact, affordable pickup suddenly becomes a smarter alternative to a crossover, especially when it costs the same or less. And then there's the customization culture that's about to explode. Cheap, simple trucks are the perfect blank canvas. Utility racks, camper shells, delivery conversions, DIY mods, business branding, all of it becomes accessible again. When a truck doesn't cost a fortune, people aren't afraid to actually use it, change it, and make it theirs. That creativity is something the modern truck market lost when prices got out of control. Behind the scenes, this also changes how automakers think about risk. Lower-priced vehicles spread risk across volume instead of concentrating it in high-margin models. That makes brands more resilient during economic downturns, something the last few years brutally exposed. Ironically, going cheaper could make companies more stable, not weaker. And here's where things start to get very uncomfortable for premium trucks, because once affordable options exist, premium has to earn its place. Leather seats and giant screens don't look so essential when a $9,000 pickup can do the job just fine. That doesn't kill high-end trucks, but it forces them to justify every dollar in a way they haven't had to for years. The momentum behind these 2026 pickups keeps building because every new detail reinforces the same message. Affordability isn't dead, it was just ignored. And now that it's back in the spotlight, it's dragging the entire industry with it, step by step, toward a future that looks a lot less bloated and a lot more grounded than anyone expected. And as this momentum grows, you can almost feel the anxiety spreading through legacy planning departments. Years of product roadmaps built around upselling, trim stacking, and endless option packages suddenly look fragile. When buyers see a no-nonsense pickup doing exactly what they need for a fraction of the price, the old playbook starts falling apart fast. Another overlooked angle is how these trucks reshape financing itself. Shorter loan terms suddenly make sense again. Paying off a vehicle doesn't feel like a lifetime commitment. That alone changes buyer psychology in a huge way, because ownership stops feeling like a trap. When people aren't buried in debt, they're more willing to buy, more willing to trust, and more willing to stick with a brand. There's also a generational shift happening right now, and these pickups land perfectly in the middle of it. Younger buyers don't care about excess the way previous generations were taught to. They care about value, utility, and flexibility. A cheap pickup that can move furniture, haul gear, and still function as a daily driver fits that mindset better than a bloated SUV ever could. And don't ignore the geopolitical side of this either, because global platforms like the IMV0 hint at a future where vehicles are designed to survive supply chain chaos, tariffs and regional disruptions. Simpler vehicles are easier to build anywhere, and that matters more now than it did a decade ago. This isn't just smart pricing, it's smart strategy in a world that's becoming less predictable by the year. The scary part for competitors is that this shift is hard to reverse. Once factories are tooled for simpler vehicles and buyers respond positively, walking back toward excess becomes risky. These trucks could lock in a new baseline for what an entry-level vehicle actually means, and that baseline is dramatically lower than what the industry has been pushing. Every step of this rollout reinforces the same uncomfortable truth: the truck market didn't need to be this expensive, and now that the curtain's been pulled back, the industry can't unsee it, and neither can buyers, as this wave of cheap 2026 pickups keeps pushing forward with more force than anyone originally anticipated. And now we're reaching the stage where copycats become inevitable, because no industry shift stays isolated for long. Once these trucks start moving real volume, every automaker without a cheap pickup suddenly has a hole in their lineup that's impossible to ignore. Executives can dismiss hype, but they can't dismiss sales data, especially when it shows buyers flocking to simplicity over excess. What makes this moment so different from past cheap car attempts is credibility. These aren't no-name startups or questionable imports. This is GM, Toyota, and Subaru putting their reputations behind affordability. That surge in demand is exactly what automakers chased with overpriced trucks. And ironically, it might only happen once prices come back down to earth. The question now isn't whether cheap pickups will sell, it's how fast they'll force everyone else to respond. And once that response starts, it won't be gentle, it'll be chaotic. Brands that waited too long will be forced into rush discounts, half-baked compact truck projects, or awkward value trims that still don't come close to these prices. You'll see marketing spin everywhere, suddenly calling trucks right-sized and back to basics. But buyers will see straight through it. When a real sub-10K pickup exists, talking points stop working and numbers start doing the talking. What really exposes the problem is how normal these trucks actually are. They're not radical concepts, not EV-only experiments, not futuristic moonshots. They're simple, functional vehicles built with modern manufacturing discipline instead of luxury creep. That alone raises an uncomfortable question. If this can be done now, why wasn't it done years ago? The answer isn't engineering, it's strategy. And that's exactly why this moment feels like a breaking point for the industry. The GM Montana shows what happens when a legacy automaker finally stops chasing image and starts chasing buyers again. The Toyota IMV0 shows what happens when a company designs for the world instead of one profit-maximized market. The Subaru pickup shows what happens when a brand listens to its customer base instead of forcing them into bigger, pricier vehicles they never asked for. Three different philosophies, one shared outcome, and that outcome is pressure everywhere. Dealers are going to feel this immediately because these trucks change showroom dynamics overnight. When someone walks in asking for an affordable pickup and you can't match the price without excuses, you've already lost. Financing conversations change, trade-in values shift, and suddenly long-term loans don't sound so normal anymore. That's a massive structural change, not a short-term trend. And this is where the conversation shifts from products to consequences, because cheap pickups don't just disrupt the truck segment, they expose how fragile current pricing models really are. Once buyers taste affordability again, walking it back becomes almost impossible. The industry trained consumers to accept higher prices, but it also trained them to recognize value. And value is exactly what these 2026 pickups are weaponizing right now, pushing the entire market toward a reckoning that nobody at the top seems fully prepared for yet. And the most underestimated part of this shift is how fast perception changes once people see these trucks in the real world. Photos and specs already got attention, but once buyers see them parked next to bloated full-size trucks, the contrast is brutal. Smaller footprint, simpler design, lower hood lines, easier loading, easier parking, easier ownership. These pickups suddenly look like common sense on four wheels, and common sense has been missing from this segment for a long time. There's also a cultural reset happening here that nobody in corporate boardrooms likes to talk about.